Yeah, so welcome to my channel once again. Um today we'll be doing an end-to-end, ETL pipeline. When I started out as being a data engineer, I see everybody mentioning pipeline. My whole idea of pipeline was that of, for crude oil and the likes. And it looks so strange, but I am here to provide, a short end-to-end of, we are going to code together. I'm going to show you how to get the resources in which you're going to build with Python, and you can do that yourself. And so the first thing I think you will do for me is to go to your GitHub and create a repository. When you create a repository, then uh, you know uh, you clone the repository. Then when you clone the repository, you move into directory. You create a Python virtual environment just like this. The name of my Python. So I'm trying to do this so as not take too many time in setting up. So just follow what you're seeing. Then you can write this code, then space, put dot like full stop, then enter to directly open that directory on your VS Code, just as you have this way. So the first thing we then, like, I want to do that this video, I want to split all my codes into modules, right? Modules into short modules, so as for it to be faster, so as for us to be able to trace any kind of error at the end of all this. There will be a lot of codes to be going through. So now the first thing is I have my git ignore. I have an env folder here holding my credentials to my Google Cloud. Then the git ignore, I want it to ignore both the env and the Python environment I've created. Now for my requirements and my dependencies, I'm looking using majorly pandas, Google Cloud Storage, Google Cloud BigQuery, then maybe pandas BigQuery. Maybe later would also go into that, when we are trying to partitions, when we are trying to cluster the data, because this data that we are loading, it's a very large data. So but the first thing we need to do, and for the what you're seeing here, git forward slash workflows, this is the aspect of the CI CD pipeline. So definitely I've started building this out, but when we get to this place, I'll have to start all over again to build it, for again and again. So let us start from the verse. So now let us import our libraries. The first module, which is loading from, so from, we want to Google Cloud, Google.cloud. We want to import storage. Then to be able to access any uh, thing on Google Cloud, definitely I have a service account and there is an IAM to it. So don't mind this. I don't want this. So I want us to write. Then we have to from Google Google.port 2. We want to import service. Yeah, on the import service account. Then for me to be able to load my credentials, so I want to what, import OS. Then so import OS. Then there is a library called python.env. So I want to say from.env, from.env. I want to import or import load underscore dot here dot env. Then the next thing I want to import, there is a library just like a print statement, which is, we call it the logging library. So for me to log, I want to set the levels of my logs. Log dot basic config, login dot basic config, basic. I have a default settings, like you can see, basic config or config. I have a default settings I do use in all my scripts. Level, if you want to call it login.info, login dot info, right? So then the format, login dot info, the format in which I want is the time which is then the level name, that is the login name, and the messages. So that is that for that. Then for me to be able to load my env, I need to use this as load underscore dot env. That is that. Then let us write the first. Now our target for this first module, like I said, the target for the first module is to get the list of all the files within gcloud and convert them into a list. So let's do a code alone. So I want to say def get files, get underscore files. As much as possible, I'm trying to make this a kind of deterministic model. So definitely we are going to maybe do the final run but for this it's a special library. So the first thing is, let us try, and no, I don't want this. I want us to write try and exceptions, exception as E. So what I want to do, I want to raise a login.error, since the outcome of what I'm looking out for is a list. So a login.error, so I want to raise any error in case if there is any error, so I can just go by this a bit. Then I want it to return, in case there is error, I want to return empty. Now let us start from scratch. Now for you to using AI is good, but I would advise that for you to get started with this, so the first thing you need to do is know how to get what you need. So we want to do, what is the action we want to do? Everything you want to do is available to you. What you want to do is to read, to get these files from a GCS bucket. You can just go to your Google and just type search, get files from GCS bucket using Python client. Then you are going to see a pointer to what you need, apart from the real Google documentations. So you can just find that. So you can see like what we have is giving you an indicator to the library you need to have. Then this is just it. So let's start from here. But for us to be able to access the cloud, the first thing is to set up the authentication. So now in my .env file, I have a GCS credential part. So the first thing I need to do is crd for credentials underscore paths is for me to now tell Python to get this path, get env. So I know I have the name in there. I have the name in there to GCS credentials. I won't be able to show you my credentials because they are sensitive at this. So I'm going to show you to get that. Now when you go to your Google Cloud, then to get this credential, go to your Google Cloud, then go to where you have service account. You can create a service account. Then for your service account to be able to access your Google storage, you are going to give it some rules, such as maybe the object storage admin or storage user. So you are going to give it those two roles. I think with those two roles you should be able to read and write into, in short, with the storage admin, which is like an overall role, you should be able to read and write. So so the next thing you need to do, since you now have the path, now you need, what is the bucket's name? Let's call it bkt underscore name. So our bucket name, so I think I've used this bucket before, but let's just, now this is the bucket name. This is a subfolder within the bucket. Now bucket name is what? Sample dot dem data dem dev. div. Then now the first thing you need to do is to now load up the credentials into the service account. Let's say svc acct for service accounts. I want to say service accounts, service underscore accounts dot credentials, service account dot credentials, dot from underscore service account file. So I have this. Now someone would ask me, how can I also get this? Where are you getting this from? The same way, the same way you did the first aspect which I told you. You can see my search here. I did this search just because of this story. So you can just go and do this kind of search and come back, and you'll be able to get like a pointer to what you need, not just to use AI. And AI is good, very, very, definitely make your work fast, but you will always depend on it if you don't know what to do. So definitely, so then you'll be able to see different ways of connecting. So you would see from here how to use service account, how to connect. So definitely there will be a pointer to what you need. So now that's the first thing. Then the second thing is, after you load the service account, right, then we need to create a client. We need to create a client, so which is GCS. Let's say GCS, to activate the GCS client, the GCS CLNC. So let me put it that way. So I can now say, service storage, which is the resource we want to access, dot client dot clients. So what is the credentials, which is the authentication method? Credentials equals to, sorry, I need to check this. Why is it saying, okay, that's the credentials. So now that we have with this, with this we've been able to access the GCS bucket. Now we want to access the folders and the files. Now we want to be able to list the blob in which we have. So the next line of code would be for us to which is the main part of it, right, to be able to list that which we have in it. Now what I want to do right now, they call it a list comprehension in Python, whereby you are able to write a code that is going to the outcome will be a list. So the first thing you need to do is what we need is the list blob method in the storage. Let's say blb underscore lists lst. So what we need is what I said, it's a list comprehension. Now for the main API you want to access from this is the name variable, which is, we want to call it blb.name for you to understand. Now blb is like a kind of objects figure name we give. Now what do we want to access? For blb in, so gls gcs. So this is our GCS, okay, GCS dot lists underscore blob. Now for this method, list blobs, for this method, what do you need? I don't just want you to look at this. So what do you need? You need the bucket name, and you need the directory to the subfolders. Now when you look at this already, with this you can see the acceptable params within this method. So now the first thing is the buckets. Now when you start typing, you should see it's giving you buckets underscore name Okay, BKT. Okay, we use big bucket name to be our BKT. Let's just use BKT name. BKT name. Then we need what we call a prefix, which is the subfolder prefix, which is what our prefix. Let's go to what is our prefix. Yeah, it is flow. So don't just copy. It is flow. Flow. Then now this is what you need, but we want a list of files called package. Then when you go back to your knowledge of beginning aspect of Python, you would understand, you remember what you call the string operation. You have the dot begins with, dot ends with. Now when you look at this, what you need is the string dot ends with. So we are looking at if now blb, which is with this, which is the subjects we have been working with, blb dot name dot ends with then you want to see it ends with dot package. Now we are going to for this we want to do a short print, then let's count the number of files. This is just to count the number of files. Then we want to say that the first, this is a try and accept block, that if this try block is successful, then you have to return the blb, which is the list we need for the next module, blb.lst. Do you get the blb.lst? Do you get? So so that is that about that. So let's do a short test. So I would end this and try and make it a module by module affair kind of. So I want to test that if underscore name underscore equals to underscore main underscore. So I want to to say files equals gets underscore files, or we don't even need this, just since we have the print statement gets underscore files. So I think this should work. So I want to say Python. Now the lead src / then load underscore gcs.py. So let's test this out. So let's see if we are going to indeed get the list we are waiting for. Okay, why is it not giving me the lists? Okay, let's start again. So let's okay, let's do it this way. Files, so I can be sure it's run perfectly. So I want to say print. Alright, print files, and let's run it again. Oh, I think I did 3 underscores as instead of 2. Okay, so let's go back to this and see. Yeah, so when you check now, you can see we have flow / and you can see that is what you have here. So my battery is done, so I think I'm going to end this right here then, and I think we'll continue from there in the next loading them into data frames. Yeah, thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.